If Texas loses to Michigan, I will eat a barbecued beef rib out of a red Solo cup and post a video of it. Book it. If Arkansas loses to Oklahoma State, I will go eat those Razorback nuggets out of a red Solo cup and post a video. Book it. If Kentucky loses to South Carolina, I will drink bourbon out of a red Solo cup and post a video. Book it. If Tennessee loses to NC State, I will eat whatever vinegar-based pork barbecue they make out there out of a red Solo cup and post a video. Book it. All of those things sound pretty good, actually. I would love to eat all of those things this weekend. Welcome back to the SEC Recap. It's great to be in the SEC. I am your host, Ben Warren. This is the SEC Precap, I guess you could say. We are previewing all of those matchups I just mentioned. Texas at Michigan. We got Arkansas, Oklahoma State. We got some SEC on SEC crime. South Carolina traveling to Lexington. And then the night game, the primetime matchup, number 14 Tennessee, neutral site game with number 24 NC State. We're going to preview all of those. We might even run down through the remainder of the SEC slate this weekend. Thank you for being here once again. However you're listening, whether you're listening on YouTube Music Podcasts or Apple Podcasts or Spotify, Amazon, whatever, thank you for tuning in there. I would encourage you, head on over to YouTube. I will have my graphics up on the screen. It's a lot more fun. It's a lot more engaging. While you're there, smash that like, smash that thumbs up. It really helps us get seen with the analytics. And drop a comment, subscribe to the channel, all of that good stuff. So I don't want this to be a super long episode. We're going to jump right into it. We got Texas at Michigan. This is 11 a.m. on Fox. This is in Ann Arbor. Let me bring in the graphics here. Texas a -7.5 point favorite on the road at Michigan. Okay. Now, what I'm not going to do here is go back through all of the week one games and the week one stats. What I'm going to kind of do instead is summarize some team-based metrics to kind of give us an idea of how these matchups are going to play out. Now, I like Texas personally at -7.5. Is that a number that I would bet? Not necessarily. That's not what I'm saying here. But I do like Texas to win this game outright. And this is a great matchup. Top 10 matchup, number 3 Texas Longhorns, who I think are very deserving of that ranking right now. Number 10, Michigan, we'll see. I think Michigan kind of resting its hat on its defense this year, whereas Texas, I think, a really, really well-rounded team. So let's dive into some of the matchup-based stats that I think will be key pivot points for this game and all of the games we're going to preview today. Let's start with offense. So Texas on average ran, and this is excluding garbage time, by the way, guys. So a lot of these SEC teams blew out week one opponents. So some of these stats are based on eliminating the garbage time plays, right? So 40 offensive plays not in garbage time, averaging 0.41 points per play on those non-garbage time plays. Total EPA added for the Texas offense, 16.39. This was a Colorado State, remind you, versus Colorado State. Offensive success rate of 60%, really, really good, no matter who you're playing. And an explosiveness factor of 1.28. Now, that would be explosiveness valued here as EPA, so expected points added off of explosive plays being anything 20 yards plus, okay? So rush, pass, doesn't matter. Let's compare that to the Michigan offense. 61 plays, non-garbage time. They played Fresno State, I think, which they averaged 0.07 points per play. If you break down their point total, 4.25 total points per added. Success rate of 44.3%. and an explosiveness EPA of 0.97. So overall, offense on offense, that Texas offense looking much more potent, much more explosive, and a lot more deadly, especially in productive points. Let's switch it on over and look at the defense. So the Texas defense, points per play against, well, it was a shutout, I think. Let me make sure. Let me double check on that. Yeah, it was 52-0. Okay. I just had to fact check myself real quick. So EPA against -10, that's good. That means you are always in a position, you are always in better field position. The defense was relative to the offense. Total points allowed added -2.68. Again, that's EPA. So very, very good there. Those negative numbers on defense are desirable. Success rate against 33.3%. That's solid in that low 30% range as a defense is very, very good. And explosive EPA against 0.92. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Let's look at the Michigan defense. Points per play against -0.19, a little bit better than Texas. Total points allowed added -10.89. Okay. Success rate against 33.3, again, low 30s there. Explosiveness against 1.42. So not actually, no, that's better than the Texas defense. Yeah, that's better. But here's a new stat that I'm looking at this year that I really, really like to compare defense, and that's open yard plays against. Both of these defenses really, really good at limiting and preventing open yardage field plays. So Texas just allowed 5 total yards in the open field. Michigan, 0. So when it comes to offenses trying to get players in space, both of these defenses are really, really good at stopping that, which leads me to believe that this game is going to be won at the line of scrimmage. It's going to be that Texas offensive line versus the Michigan defensive line. Texas a little bit better, a little more efficient and explosive on offense with a higher success rate and like generally more points per play, higher EPA. But on defense, Michigan's defense a little bit stronger. They're allowing fewer points per play on average as far as EPA per play. And then that more negative total points added, indicating that Michigan could be more disruptive, especially at the line of scrimmage. But both defenses doing really well to limit offensive explosive plays. So offensively, here's what it comes down to. Texas, I think, generally ran fewer plays, but they were more efficient. Texas has a higher rate of scoring per play. Texas had substantially more points scored through week 1. They had a higher success rate on offensive plays, and they also had higher explosiveness. Flip that over defensively. Michigan allowing fewer points, stronger defensive efficiency. Stronger defensive performance in reducing opponent scores. Now, I know Texas shut out Colorado State. Michigan did not shut out Fresno. But again, when you exclude any garbage time scoring and you look at those metrics in between, Michigan's still very, very good at limiting and preventing opponent scores in advantageous field position. Both teams pretty equal on success rate defensively, and Michigan overall just like a little bit less explosive compared to Texas. Where I think this comes down to is the quarterback play. Like I said, line of trenches, quarterback play. I do think the advantage in the quarterback at the quarterback position is going to go to Texas. Through week 1, Quinn Ewers is my number 6 quarterback in the SEC. He had a QBR, at least the way I calculate it, 155.03. That puts him right at 6th in between Nico Iamaleava at Tennessee and Taylor Green at Arkansas. Now, his upside is way greater than that, right? This is just through week 1. So understand that those metrics are a little skewed or the data there is limited. Compare that to Davis Warren, who Michigan started at the quarterback position. The way that I would calculate his ranking is a 99.5, which really puts him in that back like 13, 14, 15. I guess I'd have him just kind of where Graham Mertz is, just ahead of where Graham Mertz played last year or last week, which I had Graham Mertz at a 93.5. So behind Jackson Arnold of Oklahoma, right in front of Graham Mertz. So overall, Texas's strength at the quarterback position, explosiveness on offense, getting players in the open field. Even though Michigan is good at limiting that, I think if Texas's offensive line can hold at the line of scrimmage, this game will go Texas's way. Do they cover the 7.5? I'm not saying that at all. I don't really have a good gauge on that. That's not my strength. That's not my skill set. I'm sure that line has moved a little bit. I don't know what it opened at. But I like Texas to win outright in this game. Let's check out what the over-under is. 42.5. I don't know. I really don't know if I'd take that over with both of these defenses and Michigan maybe not able to score as much as Texas. So this could be like a 24-17 type game. I mean, with that doesn't quite cover, but you're sort of at that around that 42 mark. So I don't know. Maybe I'd lean the under on this matchup, but definitely Texas to win outright. Let's head into the second matchup, or the second marquee matchup. It's same time slot. This is Arkansas at Oklahoma State. Now, Arkansas had that big time showing against Arkansas Pine Bluff in week 1. Oklahoma State, on the other hand, they played, let's see, who did they play? South Dakota State. Was the Jackrabbits? I think it's the Jackrabbits. 44-20. Oklahoma State, obviously a top 25 team, number 16 in the AP rankings. For what it's worth, I don't think AP rankings are worth the toilet paper that they're voted on. But that's what we use for now. I think other metrics like, strength-based and efficiency-based metrics, FPI even, are better rankings. But unranked for these purposes, Arkansas versus 16-ranked Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State minus 7.5 as well. By the way, guys, these numbers might change. I'm recording this Thursday morning. This will probably be out Thursday night, early Friday morning, most likely. These numbers might have changed a little bit, and they might get better or down as we lead into Saturday. But this is what the number is at the time I'm recording. So Arkansas had a really great offensive showing. It was Arkansas Pine Bluff. It was a shutout. How much can you really glean from that? We don't know, but we'll find out this week. This game is in Stillwater, so it's a home game for Oklahoma State. Let's check out offensive stats for Arkansas. Non-garbage time. Again, if you go Google the box score or look at ESPN, the box score for this, you're going to be like, whoa. Arkansas ran way more plays than this. I'm thinking non-garbage time. Like the plays that mattered when the score was close enough for the opposing team to still have a chance, right? So 35 non-garbage time plays per game for the Razorbacks, 0.83 points per play. They were incredibly efficient. Very, very, very efficient. I think they scored on every drive. Total points added, 29.17. Positive EPA, that's really, really good. 82.9% success rate. That's phenomenal. Again, phenomenal no matter who you're playing, because that means everything in the offense is happening the way it should be. Explosiveness factor, 1.16. Let's compare that to Oklahoma State. Plays per game, 67. Non-garbage time, 0.36 points per play. Advantage Arkansas so far. Total points added, 23.93. So excellent for Oklahoma State as well. Success rate, 46.3%. Not quite as solid, but again, level of competition in South Dakota State, likely a whole lot better than what we saw in Arkansas Pine Bluff. An explosiveness factor of 1.32. Flip it on over to the defense. Actually, let's just recap that offense real quick because I don't want to throw too much at you there. So what that all kind of means is Arkansas had a very, very efficient offense, more efficient than Oklahoma State's, not adjusted for the level of competition, right? But Oklahoma State demonstrating slightly more explosiveness from the offensive position. Oklahoma State ran more offensive plays, but Arkansas was more efficient, more points per play, higher EPA. Arkansas added more total offensive points, but again, they were more efficient overall. You expect that with a higher success rate. And then Oklahoma State, obviously, greater explosiveness in their plays, which can boost EPA depending on your field position. Explosive play from your own 20-yard line, lower EPA. Explosive play from your opponent's 25-yard line, higher EPA, right? So more explosiveness there for Oklahoma State. Now let's look at the defense, right? Arkansas points per play against, that's EPA, minus 54. It was a shutout, right? So negative is good. Negative is good in this sense. Total points allowed added, negative 5.37. Again, the lower that negative number is in terms of EPA on defense, the better. Success rate against, 40%. So Pine Bluff did move the ball a little bit, but the defense was just good at limiting explosive plays and not giving up any points. Explosiveness against, this is an EPA metric, 0.35. Again, allowed a little bit, but you didn't give up any scores, which ultimately at the end of the day, that's what matters. Compared to Oklahoma State defense, points per play against, 0.11. Now that's a positive number because Oklahoma State did give up 20 points to South Dakota State, right? So not as good at limiting advantageous field position for opposing offenses. But again, level of competition there adjusted. South Dakota State probably a much better team than Pine Bluff. So if we opponent adjusted those scores, we kind of bring everything more toward the middle. Total points allowed added, it's a positive number, 2.16. Not as good as Arkansas, but again, adjusting for level of opponent, it's fair. All right, it's fine. Probably not going to let you crack the top 10 if you're Oklahoma State, but it's going to keep you in that top 25. Explosiveness against, 1.11, and then that's worse than what Arkansas allowed. Again, non-opponent adjusted. And then here's the stat that I love, those open field yards, right? Arkansas allowed one single open field yard to Pine Bluff. Now, it's a lesser offense. Oklahoma State allowed 33 open field yards to that South Dakota State offense, So South Dakota State, a better offense, but Oklahoma State's defense giving up more of those open field yards. Sometimes that is just a matter of defensive positioning. Sometimes it can be, playmaking ability too, like just having faster players at those, cornerback and safety positions, or linebacker even, depending on, if you're dropping your linebackers back into pass protection. But generally speaking, it's a spacing issue, and it's dealing with players being out of position on defense. So if Arkansas can get Oklahoma State defense out of position and get some of their offensive weapons in open space, I like some of those plays to go Arkansas's way. I just think generally Oklahoma State's defensively going to really limit and slow down what Arkansas wants to do. They're not going to repeat a Pine Bluff performance on the road in Stillwater. So let's recap the defensive side. Oklahoma State generally allowing fewer points per play, so overall a stronger defense. And limiting EPA. Sorry, had to pause there to make sure I was interpreting my stat correctly. I think matchup on matchup, Arkansas will be a better matchup than South Dakota State. Oklahoma State will be a better matchup for Arkansas than South Dakota State. I think that EPA defensively will favor Oklahoma State and what they're able to limiting some of Arkansas's field positioning and limiting points as well. Arkansas overall had a lower defensive success rate, so I think Oklahoma State will move the ball on Arkansas. Arkansas not nearly as strong defensively, I think, when we adjust for a top 25 opponent. And Oklahoma State is going to do a better job of limiting the explosive plays. I think both teams will still get some, right? Arkansas will still get some. Oklahoma State will still get some. I think I would tend, like if anything here, the over-under 62.5, which is high, right? I like Oklahoma State, I don't know if I like them again by the 7.5 points. I just don't like that number if I were going to bet it. But I do think on the road, Arkansas on the road in Oklahoma, this favors Oklahoma State. Probably at least a field goal, maybe a touchdown if it gets into a shootout. That 62.5 over under really makes me think this is more of a shootout than a defensive battle. But if Oklahoma State can just limit Arkansas's offense a little bit, I do think this game swings Oklahoma State's way. So whereas I want to stay an SEC homer here, I think there's just too many things, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, home field advantage, all of those things that's going to favor Oklahoma State. So I like them to win outright, but I do think this is a higher scoring affair, and I would not be surprised to see the point total go over that 62.5. All right, moving right along into the SEC on SEC matchup. This is 2:30 game on ABC ESPN Plus. South Carolina traveling to Lexington to play the Kentucky Wildcats. No love between these two programs. Kentucky really hates Shane Beamer. The South Carolina Gamecocks. Gamecocks have got him a couple times, I think, since Beamer's been there, including one a couple years ago at home when Kentucky had a backup quarterback in. I think they feel that South Carolina came in and kind of stole that game from them a little bit. Kentucky in this one, though, minus 10-point favorite. What I saw in week one from both teams suggests that South Carolina likely not even a threat in this ball game. Let me pause here for a sip of my coffee. Yeah, that was fading there. So I do like Kentucky by this number. I think this line got bet up. I think it opened a little bit lower, like it was maybe like 7 or 8, and it's been bid up to Kentucky minus 10, because what we saw from South Carolina versus Old Dominion in week one was not positive. I mean, you could pick out individual player performances. The freshman kid on the defensive line for South Carolina, I know a lot of people are really high on him. But Lenore Sellers, very average. Not great with his arm. We know he can run the ball. I don't think he's going to be able to do a whole lot of that against this Kentucky defense. I'm not saying this Kentucky defense is world beater by any means, but success rate on offense for South Carolina, it's not going to get any easier versus Kentucky than what it was against an Old Dominion team that frankly should not have even scored a point in that game. So let's talk offensive matchups first, right? Again, non-garbage time. Kentucky offense on 40 plays, 0.363 points per game through that first week. Total points added, 14.52. Solid, okay? I think it was Southern Miss that they played, respectable program, albeit the Golden Eagles are outmatched, right? Success rate of 50% is okay. That's okay. Against Southern Miss, I'll give you that. That's a quality. It's a respectable week one opponent, right? And explosiveness factor 1.41 EPA. Compared to South Carolina, 76 non-garbage time plays. That's a lot more plays because South Carolina was never in garbage time. They were in that game to the fourth quarter. 0.068 points per play, and then 5.19 total points added, 36.8% success rate, explosiveness factor 1.07. So offensively, everything favors Kentucky here. At least through week one, everything favors the Wildcats. Even though we would summarize Kentucky's performance as being fairly moderate against a Southern Miss team, they had a decent success rate at 50% and good explosiveness. I guess explosiveness play rate, if we want to call it that. South Carolina, much more modest on offense, relatively low success rate, and low to average explosiveness. Flip it on over to the defense. Negative values for Kentucky here, points per play against, 0.119. That's great. Negative 3.69. Nice. Points added. Again, on defense, negative EPA, good. You're limiting and preventing points and maintaining advantageous field position. Success rate against, 38.7%. That's okay. So Southern Miss moved the ball a little bit, but Kentucky didn't give up the scores. That's what you want to see. Explosiveness against, 0.96. That's fair. Compared to South Carolina, points per play against, 0.66. That's a positive number. That's bad. Points allowed added, 4.6. Again, that's a positive number. Bad. That's a poor defensive performance from the South Carolina Gamecocks. Success rate, 34.3%. Explosiveness factor, 1.35. That's not good. You want that explosiveness factor on defense to be lower. You want that to trend towards 0. And then my new favorite stat, open field yardage. Can't talk today, man. Kentucky allowed 0 open field yards to Southern Miss. South Carolina allowed 32 open field yards to Old Dominion. It's not good, man. It's not good. Nothing on either side of the ball favors South Carolina in this matchup. It just didn't. South Carolina technically had more non-garbage time offensive plays, but Kentucky was way more efficient. They scored more points per play when it counts. Kentucky had more points total offensively against better competition, and Kentucky had a higher success rate on offensive plays. They also demonstrate a higher explosiveness factor, so more plays of 20 yards or more. Everything advantage Kentucky. Defensively, Kentucky's stronger defensive performance in terms of points per play. Kentucky's negative point total added. Again, for a defense, you want those total points added to be negative versus South Carolina had a positive value, so a far less effective defense. South Carolina had a lower defensive success rate, indicating moderate struggles in stopping opponents offensively. And in fact, that's exactly what we saw. And Kentucky limited explosive plays far better than South Carolina. So everything favors Kentucky. Offensive, defense. I'm not even going to get into special teams. We're not even going to talk that stupid ass Beamer ball crap. Where, faking a punt once a game that maybe gets you in position to score a field goal. Like, that ship has absolutely sailed. You got to put up points on offense, and you got to stop points on defense. I'm done with the Beamer ball special teams nonsense. We're not even talking about it here. So at Kentucky -10, I like them there. Over under 42.5. Kentucky loves to play the time of possession game. They love to slow the game down and run the ball, but they've got great playmakers. Dane Key, those guys on the perimeter will challenge the South Carolina secondary. I don't think South Carolina's defensive line is really good enough to stuff or stop Kentucky at the line of scrimmage. So I think Kentucky is going to get rolling and basically be able to do whatever they want to South Carolina. Let's compare the quarterbacks real quick, though. Brock Vandegrift was right in the middle of the road through my week 1 quarterback rankings. Number 8, he was very good, but he had 12 completions, 18 attempts, quarterback rating of 146.1. That put him right in the middle of SEC QBs. Lenore Sellers, not good. 10 of 23, just 43.5% completion rating. He had him at 85.5. That was 14 out of 16 QBs. Really 14 out of 15 that completed 10 attempts, because Jalen Milroe didn't even complete 10 or didn't even attempt 10 passes. So I didn't include him in these rankings this week. So out of the 15 quarterbacks that I ranked through week 1, Lenore Sellers is next to last. Connor Wegman came in at that last spot. So I love the quarterback favorability for Kentucky. I love the offensive and defensive line favorability for Kentucky. And I love the offensive playmaking ability for Kentucky. So give me Kentucky. I don't have a good read on the over-under. I think Kentucky's really going to limit South Carolina. I'd be surprised if South Carolina gets more than a couple scores in this game, unless they just drastically improve. So I really see this going something like a 28-14, something like that, which would maybe give you the under, but Kentucky to win by like 2 touchdowns, I think. I know that 10 is stretching a little wide there, but I think South Carolina is not even in this game by the third quarter. All right, taking us into the prime time matchup, we got number 14 Tennessee Volunteers traveling to Charlotte. This is a neutral site game versus number 24 NC State, the Wolfpack, 6:30 p.m. Tennessee -8. I think that line has actually moved to -8.5. It's growing. And as we talk about this game, I think you're going to see why. Real quick, let me hit pause on this just to remind you, if you're watching here on YouTube and you haven't already, drop a comment below, smash that like, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps us out. And then I want to plug all of the great SEC Pride merch that we have going on over at the Bonfire store. Bonfire.com/store/SEC recap. I'm going to scroll it on the screen here. It'll also be in the show description. Got something for every single SEC team here, guys. Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, South Carolina, Mizzou, Ole Miss, on and on and on and on. Whatever you want, I've got some merch for you. I'm calling it my SEC Pride series. Got the name of the school, the outline of the state, the mascot logo in the geographic location of the school university. It's really, really awesome stuff. All come in school color schemes. So Kentucky, I've got that awesome white on blue. LSU, the spectacularly regal yellow gold on purple background. I really love how the Mizzou came out, the black on gold. The South Carolina always pops off to me. That garnet on black looks really, really, really good. And I've got some fun stuff on here too, guys, especially my Big Doink Energy t-shirt. This is a new one I did at the very end of last season. Show your love for Big Doinks with the Big Doink Energy tee. And then my newest one, my Nico I Am a Believer game style jersey t-shirt in the Tennessee orange with the white lettering and the game style graphic on the front there, showing off your love for number 8, Nico Iamaleava, low-key Heisman contender this year, which is the perfect segue back into our game time matchup here. So I like Tennessee at this number, even though that number is growing. Number 14 versus number 24, I do not think this game is as close as those rankings suggest. If you watched both teams play, the eyeball test through week 1 favors Tennessee by a couple scores at least here. And I know a lot of people are kind of overshooting that even. A lot of people are predicting a blowout. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout. What's your definition of blowout? I think 2 or 3 scores is a blowout, especially in a top 25 matchup. But NC State struggled against Western Carolina, FCS team, okay? Tennessee showed up and showed out against Chattanooga, which, by the way, it's also an FCS team, but don't Western and Chattanooga both play in the same FCS conference? I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that, but I thought I saw that or read that or heard that somewhere. So Tennessee handled business. NC State managed to win the game. But it took fourth quarter scores for them to pull away in that game. The final score was not as close, or makes it look like that game was not as close as it was. 38-21 the final there, but it took 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter for NC State to pull away. Western, I believe, was leading by the fourth quarter. If Tennessee is leading in this game by the end of the second quarter, NC State's not coming back in this game. They're not letting you in with 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. What happened there in week 1, Wolfpack, was you had the depth and the talent to be able to do that against Western North Carolina. Tennessee is deeper and more talented than you at every single position on the field. Okay? I know everybody's going to talk about the Concepcion guy. What's it? Kevin Concepcion, as being the exception to that rule. He is not. He's a great wide receiver, NFL player. Tennessee's got multiple of those at the wide receiver position. They've got dudes on the defensive line. They've got dudes at linebacker. They've got athletes in the secondary. I know everybody likes to rag on Tennessee secondary. They're going to give up some. Okay, NC State's going to get some through the air. You are. To be fair. The Tennessee defense, I don't think, is a shutdown defense, okay? They're not. They're a bend, don't break defense, as fast as their offense likes to play. However, I do not think that NC State has the depth and the speed and the ability to go point for point with Tennessee. This is not going to become a shootout, because if it does, that is going to favor Tennessee. You've got a gunslinger, a Heisman potential, like all SEC, all conference, all league quarterback in Nico Iamaleava, gunslinger who can put that ball anywhere he wants to. Now, that space is going to be tighter for his receivers than it was against Chattanooga. It is. But quarterback on quarterback, give me Nico. Let's play a game. All right, before I even get into any team stats or any of that stuff, let's play a game. If you put Nico Iamaleava behind NC State's offensive line, who would you favor? You'd probably pick NC State, right? For the quarterback factor, all right? Take Tennessee's defensive line and swap it with NC State's. Give NC State Tennessee's defensive line and Nico Iamaleava. Who are you picking to win this game? Most of you are probably picking NC State 10 out of 10 times, which tells me, for this completely new stat that I just made up in my head, this hypothetical scenario, that it really is coming down. It's going to come down to quarterback play and defensive line. Tennessee's got the playmakers at both of those positions to outmatch anything NC State wants to do. NC State has not run a defense against an offense like this that moves as fast as Tennessee moves. I don't care what kind of scheme NC State's going to run. When Tennessee gets in that rhythm, run 5 yards, short pass, pick up, first down, reset. You're not going to have time to get the call in and get in your scheme. You're going to have to run back to the ball and set up in your base defense, which favors Tennessee. If they get in that rhythm, you're going to have to blow your timeouts or fake injuries. And I think we see that within the first 2 or 3 minutes. Because I think Tennessee gets in rhythm early. I think Tennessee gets in rhythm fast. And NC State is not able to adjust until after the halftime, at which case it's going to be too late. All right. Let's talk some stats. Kind of started going off there. Let me sip my coffee one more time, then we'll talk some stats. Okay. Offensively, non-garbage time. Keeping in mind, Tennessee was in garbage time versus Chattanooga basically in the second quarter. This game was a blowout. It was never close. They were in garbage time before they even went to the half. On 41 non-garbage time plays, points per play was 0.856. NC State, 72 plays, non-garbage time, points per play, 0.409. Total points added for the Tennessee offense, 35.1 versus 29.42 for NC State. Offensive success rate, Tennessee, 73.2, NC State, 48.6. Explosiveness factor, 1.3. Again, that's non-garbage time. NC State explosiveness factor, 1.57. number skews a little bit there on the fewer plays run. So what does that mean? NC State ran significantly more non-garbage time plays, but Tennessee way more efficient. Way more efficient. It's that tempo. It's that rhythm. It's Nico Iamaleava putting the ball right in the hands of the receivers, hitting them in stride, letting the receivers catch the ball and run, not having to break stride. Efficiency. More points per play favors Tennessee. More total points offensively. And we can even opponent adjust here because they were both FCS teams. More points, more efficient, fewer plays, highly efficient Tennessee offense. Much higher success rate on offensive plays. More effective offensive execution for the Tennessee Vols. NC State had some explosive plays. They're going to get some. They're going to get some. But this defense is not the Western Carolina defense. This is a much, 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 much better defense. And that defensive line is going to eat. Okay? So if you're NC State, you're Grayson McCall, and you're not getting that ball out fast, James Pierce is hungry and he is on top of you. Tyree West is hungry and he is on top of you. I don't think NC State's going to have a lot of success running the ball. I just don't, which means they're going to have to go quick RPO. They're going to try to get it out to Concepcion for probably short yard swing plays. But if you're Tennessee, you know exactly who you're stopping. Who are your other playmakers on NC State? When you've got four dudes on the defensive line who can pressure the quarterback and stop the run, and you've got one guy on the perimeter that you're trying to get the ball to, and Tennessee can watch him the whole time, go, there he is. Put a couple of guys over there, stop him. Just don't let him pick up 10. Where else do you go? What are you doing? I don't know. Let's look at the defense. So Tennessee points per play, statistically 0. They allowed 3, but based on the number of defensive snaps they played, statistically it's 0. It's 0.0037. Okay. Points allowed added, that's EPA, positive 4.58, just because they did have a turnover in their own territory. But Chattanooga missed a field goal. So they still only end up with 3, but Tennessee did have some unfavorable field position there late in the game when they were playing some backups. Success rate against 28.6. That's very, very, very good, below 30%. Explosiveness against is less than 1. It's 0.93, which is a great number. And then, before I do open field yards, let's compare NC State. 0.222 positive. That's not good. 13.54 EPA allowed on defense. Again, you want that to trend towards 0 or be negative. So everything there favors Tennessee defensively. Success rate against 41, not great, especially not against Western Carolina, excuse me. And explosiveness against 1.21. Again, everything favors Tennessee there. Open field yards, Tennessee 0. Quarterbacks, safeties, linebackers, everybody was in position to limit or prevent open field yards. NC State defense, open field yards against 56. They gave up half a football field to Western North Carolina in space. Guess what Tennessee's offense likes to do? Space you out sideline to sideline. Their receivers will be on the sideline, forcing your cornerbacks to be on the sideline. Tennessee is going to get players in space. Their offense creates space. When you're running back to the ball, just trying to get lined up for the snap, you're just trying to line up on your man or whatever base defense they're going to set up and run. Tennessee gets you in space. You allowed 56 open field yards to Western North Carolina. What are you going to give up to Tennessee? I cannot wait to look at this stat after the game Saturday night and see how this compares, because I think Tennessee in the open field is just going to eat all day long. And if you're NC State, what are you going to do? You're going to bring a blitz? You're going to bring a corner blitz from the sideline? Good luck. You'll never get there. That ball will be out of Nico's hands. It will be in the hands of a running back or a receiver, and they'll be 10 yards behind you by the time you ever get to the quarterback. Good luck. Let's look at quarterback matchups. Nico Iamaleava, he was number 5 in my QBR rankings through week 1. 22 of 28, 78.6 completion rating, 314 yards. Yards on air, 13.4. 3 touchdowns through the air. 173.03 in my QB rankings. Compare that to Grayson McCall, who was great at Coastal Carolina, guys. I'm not ragging on him. He was a good player at Coastal Carolina. It was a Sun Belt team. He's playing in the ACC now, and you're playing against a top 3 or 4 team in the SEC. It's just different. In the SEC, it just means more. Well, it's also when you play an SEC team and you're not used to that week in, week out, it's just different. The size, the speed, the skill, the athleticism. Grayson McCall actually ended up with a 132.4. So, not bad. But where that would put him in SEC, in my SEC rankings, is right behind Carson Beck, right in front of Brady Cook. And a lot of that is coming from garbage time, right? It was those 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter when they had to pull away, and they outlasted Western Carolina. So Grayson McCall is a good player, but I think Tennessee is just going to get a ton of pressure on him. I think James Pierce coming off the edge, Tyree West coming off the other side, it's just going to be too much. Give me Tennessee minus the 8. I don't even know what the over-under is. 61.5. Man, if Tennessee gets to 30, they're winning this game. That's like that crazy Josh Heupel stat where, when Josh Heupel teams score 30 points, they've only lost twice ever. Because it favors a shootout. If Tennessee gets to 30 and NC State manages 24 or 27, it's a shootout. We're hitting that over, and Tennessee's winning that game because they're going to hit you downfield. Those receivers are too good. I don't think Concepcion himself can really do enough. I just think Tennessee's going to have too many guys that can account for him, and they're not going to have enough playmaking at other positions to really open up the field. And I don't think NC State's going to be able to really stop what Tennessee wants to do. So I think Tennessee wins this game by 2 touchdowns at least. 3 wouldn't surprise me, but I'm not going to call for that. The minus 8, now it's moving to 8.5. I think we might even see that grow to 9, possibly 9.5 by the time we kick off. Tennessee's going to travel. Those fans are going to travel for this game. I think you'll see more than half that stadium in orange, even though it's basically in the backyard of the Wolfpack. So that's how I see it playing out. I think Tennessee plays this game like a top 10 team. I think NC State plays this game like a number 24 ranked team playing a top 10 team. And the disparity there between a true top 10 team and anybody in the back half of that top 25 or kind of on the cusp of the top 25, we'll see that play out in real time. So that's what I think. Do you agree? Disagree? What do you think? Texas, Michigan, I got the Longhorns. Arkansas at Oklahoma State. I'm actually going to Oklahoma State there. South Carolina traveling to Lexington. Give me the Wildcats. 14 Tennessee at 24 NC State. I'm taking my Vols all day long. Let me know what you think in the comments, guys. Am I way off base? Oh, how about we just run through the other games real quick, right? We've got a couple minutes. I'm just now hitting the 50-minute mark. McNeese at Texas A&M. Give me the Aggies. Tennessee Tech at Georgia. LOL. California at Auburn. Come on. At home, Jordan Hare. Give me Auburn. Middle Tennessee at Ole Miss. Derek Mason's back at Middle Tennessee now. That'll go Ole Miss's way for sure. South Florida at number 4, Alabama. Funny, actually, USF Barstool has been popping off at Florida. I know that game was like unexpectedly close at South Florida last year. Alabama's going to murder South Florida. Going to murder them. Enjoy your trash talk on Twitter, South Florida, but Alabama is going to absolutely drag you on Saturday. Buffalo at Mizzou. Come on, Mizzou. Samford at Florida. Shoot, man, I don't know. Nah, I'm just kidding. Give me Florida. They shouldn't lose that game. Nichols at LSU. LSU, of course. Alcorn State at Vandy. Give me Vandy. Houston at Oklahoma. There's a big line on that game. Oklahoma -29. Give me Oklahoma. And then Mississippi State at Arizona State. Sneaky good game there, okay? ASU is a -6 favorite, but if that Mississippi State offense shows up, that could be a game. Over under 60.5. I would lean Arizona State just because that's a road game for the Bulldogs, but don't be surprised for the night game if that's one that Mississippi State brings home. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it. That's all for the podcast. Thanks for tuning in on this SEC pre-cap episode. Let me know what you think in the comments. Am I way off base? Am I an idiot? Am I right on the money? I don't care. Just be nice about it. Follow me on Twitter at SEC Recap. Like, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. I will be back after the weekend to recap all of this action with you on Monday. Enjoy the weekend. I will catch you on the next one.